All right, still on page 362, we're looking at problem number 25, and we have 3 times cosine of pi times x equals 1. And again, just as a reminder, we're working in x is in 0 through 6 for our particular solutions. So just to start out the problem, let's just divide both sides by 3, and we get cosine of pi times x equals 1/3. Then we can take the arccosine of both sides, and we're just left with pi times x on the left, and then we have arccosine of 1/3. And then we can just divide by pi on both sides, and so then we're left with x equals, let's put 1 over pi times arccosine of 1/3. You could also just put arccosine of 1/3 over pi, but I think writing it this way might just be a little bit easier visually. And then after that step, now that we have isolated x, we can plug in our formula that we found in class. So we have x equals 1 over pi times plus or minus inverse cosine of 1/3 plus 2 pi n. Now we want to use that distributive property and distribute into the parentheses, because we see multiplication and then parentheses and a plus sign inside of the parentheses. And so then we'll have x equals, let's put the plus or minus out front, and then we have 1 over pi times inverse cosine of 1/3 plus, again, distribute again, 1 over pi times 2 pi n. Let's put that over 1. Sometimes that's also easier for us visually. And then once we have that, we can put into our calculator what this equals. And so we'll have x equals plus or minus 0.392. Let's actually say this is about, I'm rounding here, plus or minus 0.392, plus we can cancel out our pi's here, and so we just have 2 times n. And then to find our general solution, we have x is about negative 0.392 plus 2n, or 0.392 plus 2n. And box that in and call that your general solution. Now we want to find our particular solutions. So I'll just use purple, and we can go ahead and make our table. When we make this table, we're just taking what we found as our general solution and kind of dividing that up. So if we said x is about negative 0.392 plus 2n, or 0.392 plus 2n. Then again, we're just plugging in values for n. So we could say n equals 0, n equals 1, n equals 2. And as a reminder, we're trying to find values that are in between 0 through 6. So let's just start with this for now and see what our outputs are when we plug in numbers for n. On the left-hand side, we would have negative 0.392 when n equals 0, and then we're just adding 2 each time we go down through the cycles. So then we would have 1.608 and then 3.608 and then 5.608. On the right-hand side, we would have 0.392, 2.392, 4.392, and sorry, this is n equals 3, and then 6.392. And from this table, we're just going to pick out the values that fall in between 0 through 6. So to make our list, we would say x equals, and then put some braces, 0.392, 1.608, 2.392, 3.608, 4.392, and 5.608. And then you can go ahead and box that in, and that's our particular solutions.